I used to go and talk to Steve all the time, and he used to listen to me and give me good advice, and he was like a counselor, really. And he told me to try wearing a sock on my ear, because that way I wouldn't take myself too seriously, and people wouldn't take me seriously. How could they? I mean, when you're sitting there with a sock on your ear. And of course, we had baby clothes at that time, and so I would wear this baby sock on my ear.
Baby socks.
And it worked. You know, you just can't take yourself too seriously, and you know that other people won't be taking you seriously.
Especially if you're living with a bunch of people.
So who was here when you guys overlapped?
Gee, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
I do.
Okay.
I remember.
Well, Paul was here. Paul's always here. Or Paul was always here. Yeah, it never seemed like Paul would leave. He was. I mean, nobody would even think about Paul leaving. He was just like a part of the walls.
Kind of, yeah. He was alive, though.
He was alive. But so were the walls, really.
You know, what I remember from the summer of '79 was I met Steve in Tucson. But my story has to do with I was younger than Steve, and I grew up in the same town as Steve in Ridgewood. And Steve was always the guy in the park in Ridgewood and his friends. And then I wound up in Tucson, Arizona, not connected to Steve or anybody else, and ran into them in Tucson. And I was like, aren't you people from Ridgewood? And, you know, so then we became acquainted. And my sisters were calling me up and saying, ever since you left home, you've like ruined Mom. She won't let us do anything, and we want to go camping. And so I made a deal with my mom. If I came home, because I was like a runaway teenager, if I came home, she would let the girls, my sisters, go camping with me. And so I was telling Steve this story in Tucson. He said, well, I have this farm in New York. I'm like, you do? And he goes, yeah, why don't you bring him to the farm and go camping up at the farm? I'm like, okay. And so I go back, I leave Arizona with Steve. Steve goes to Ridgewood. I go back to Ridgewood. I bring my mom over to meet Steve. She's like, well, I have to meet this guy first, right? So we have this big powwow in Ridgewood, you know, with my sisters and my mom and me. And long story, she agrees, which she always was gonna. She was just all show. So we all come up here, my sisters and I think we took the Greyhound bus, came up here, met everybody, went camping. So you'll see pictures of my sisters and I walking up Cottage Hill Road to go camping, right? And we go somewhere up on Burns Road and we camp and we play this unending game of gin rummy. I think we got to a score of 500,000, you know, and we're just having tickle fests and unending, you know, grilled cheese sandwiches or something. So when we came back out of the woods and it was time to take them back to Texas, I was like, I fell in love with this place. I was like, you know, so my experience here is so different from yours because I so much felt like I wound up here on purpose, like I was supposed to be here, you know, and I think you always felt like, and you always sort of, you know, felt like you weren't supposed to be here somehow, like maybe it was an accident. I don't know, is that true? Did you ever feel like you were supposed to be here?
I never thought about it.
Yeah, I always felt like I was supposed to be here.